Ok, nuevamente, muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí en nuestro segundo taller de Avance EXPO 2025. Este taller se titula Comunicación y Alcance, cómo enfrentar barreras sociales, con Miguelina Portorreal, que va a ser nuestra presentadora en la tarde de hoy. Ella es especialista en comunicaciones. Antes de comenzar, eh, tenemos este taller que se ofrece hoy y tenemos uno más que es de Dimensiones Humanas y el futuro de la conservación. Se estará haciendo el próximo mes, 27 de agosto. Pendientes a nuestras redes sociales, nuestra página web, en caso de que haya algunos cambios con los horarios y las fechas. Pero hasta el momento entiendo que el próximo taller que se va a ofrecer en agosto se va a mantener en esa línea. Importante mantener su micrófono en silencio durante la presentación. Así evitamos distracciones y cualquier otra interrupción. También pueden utilizar la manita que hay en el menú de abajo en su cuenta de Zoom para hacer cualquier pregunta. De igual forma pueden escribir en el chat, y yo les estaré ayudando a hacer esas preguntas con la presentadora. Muy bien, vamos a dar inicio. Vamos a presentar a Miguelina Portorreal, quien está con nosotros desde California. Si la mente no me falla. Um, so, ¿Quién es Miguelina Portorreal? Les leo rapidito su biografía. Ella es nacida en República Dominicana y criada en Bronx, Nueva York. Miguelina Portorreal posee un grado de maestría en arquitectura panorámica y un bachillerato en relaciones públicas. Por 15 años, Miguelina ha aplicado su conocimiento y destrezas en varios niveles del sector público. A través de su carrera, ella aspira a mejorar las injusticias socioambientales, promover desarrollo económico y el revitalizar comunidades en lugares que han sido sistemáticamente excluidos, empoderando las voces de los demás. Así que, sin más preámbulos, comenzamos la presentación. Miguelina, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. Te voy a pasar ahora el mando para que puedas compartirnos tu presentación. Muy bien.
Gracias, Kevin, y bienvenidos a todos. Dame un segundo ahora, lo que yo trato de compartir mi presentación. Ok, ¿y lo pueden ver bien? Espero que sí.
Sí, se puede ver.
Gracias. Am, Hola a todos, bienvenidos. Buenas tardes para mí, que sí, yo estoy aquí en California, Sacramento, pero para ustedes, yo sé que son las noches o buenas noches para ustedes. Yo me llamo Miguelina Portorreal y yo soy una especialista en comunicaciones y voy a darle una presentación de comunicaciones y alcance, cómo utilizar la narración para conexiones. Y perdóname que mi español no es tan perfecto. Yo mayoría de veces hablo en inglés y pienso en inglés. Pero sí hablo español, so voy a tratar lo más que puedo para hacer esta presentación completamente en español. Pero a veces ustedes van a ver que voy a hablar inglés también. So perdóname a lo que yo trato lo más que puedo a utilizar el español. So vamos a empezar aquí en la presentación. Y vamos a hablar, como mencioné, cómo explorar el relato de historias y la escucha activa, fomentar conexiones significativas y auténticas en las comunidades. Lo que estoy diciendo aquí es cómo usar las historias y escuchar los más básicos para hacer conexiones en las comunidades. Y en mi trabajo, yo soy una especialista de comunicaciones con el servicio de peces, para vida silvestre de los Estados Unidos. Y en mi trabajo yo hago mucho historia, entrevistas, hablando con la gente del público, para demostrar el trabajo que hacemos en la agencia de nosotros, el trabajo que yo hago, el trabajo de mi, de mis coworkers, de mis colleagues con quien yo trabajo. Y lo que yo he aprendido en mis 3 años con organización, organization, es que escuchar y hablar con la gente es una manera de eh, formar conexiones con todos el mundo. Y primero, antes de empezar de todo eso, déjame darle una introducción de quién yo soy. Y como Kevin mencionó antes, yo soy de la República Dominicana. Yo nací ahí, pero yo me creí en el Bronx. Y mi vida entera yo me creí en el Bronx, en Nueva York, estudié en Nueva York y a los 28 años me moví a California para el trabajo que tengo ahora con el servicio para peces y vida silvestre. En la escuela yo estudié arquitectura pasaísta. Pienso que así es que se dice en español, pero en inglés se dice landscape architecture. Y también estudié asuntos públicos. Yo tengo 15 años de experiencia en el sector público desde que estoy en high school, um, volunteering, volun- volunteering con organizations. um, Mayoría de veces como que tienen that has a fun, I'm sorry, that has a focus on the environment. So, como el trabajo que yo veo que ustedes hacen, también, como yo vi en el chat un momentito antes, que si yo, eh, perdón. I'm very passionate about the environment, and that's what has driven me so far. That's why I have um, spent 15 years in the public sector because I'm very passionate about connecting communities to the environment, especially marginalized communities like myself and from where I come from. Um,
Una
Espero
pregunta
que
rapidita,
yes. Kevin, please.
Miguelina. ¿Hay alguna persona aquí que no comprenda inglés, que necesite traducción? Miguelina está haciendo todo lo posible por ofrecer esta presentación en español, pero quería preguntar, perdón, no lo hice antes, si hay alguna persona aquí que no entienda el inglés, que necesite asistencia en la traducción. ¿Alguna persona que no entienda inglés? Am, ok, ¿estamos de acuerdo de que todos al menos entienden inglés? Ok. ah, Ok, gracias, Darilis. En ese caso, pues le vamos a pedir a Miguelina que entonces proceda a hacer su presentación en inglés. Si hay alguien que no entienda, por favor, hágalo saber en el chat. Yo les estaré ayudando con la traducción. Eh, so, Miguelina, I would just say, you know, if anybody here, does require any translation services, but it seems that the majority of the people understands what you are saying in English. So yeah, go ahead, feel free to continue in English in case someone needs any extra hands and has a question that needs to be translated. I'll be there to help you with. So yeah, please, you can continue your presentation in English.
Thank you. Um, Thank you, Kevin. And if at any point I need to stop and you want me to explain or you want Kevin to help us translate, please feel free to weigh in. Thank you for your grace. I appreciate your patience. I don't speak Spanish super often, only when I speak with my family. So in a professional setting, it is a little bit challenging for me to think and gather my thoughts. So again, thank you for your patience and your grace. So I'll just kind of backtrack a little and start over again. My slides are in Spanish, so I do hope that that helps you follow along. But again, if at any point you want um, a translation, Kevin and I can definitely support and assist so you can follow along. So, where am I from? I'm from the Dominican Republic, very proudly. I was born there. My parents came to this country and brought us to this country when I was a few months old, probably no older than this picture you see here. I have a majority of my family in New York, and the rest of my family are in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, where I do try to go back every so often. Um, that's a very pivotal part of my heritage, of my creation story, is that I'm from the Dominican Republic and I'm an immigrant to this country. And fortunately, was able to become a citizen through my parents and all the hardships that they encountered along the way. But I'm also a very proud New Yorker. And that's where I'm coming to you all today from, based in California at the moment, but I consider myself a New Yorker at heart. And my upbringing in the Bronx has really, really shaped what I have decided to study in school, the career path that I've chosen. It's really shaped me as an individual because if you're not aware, the Bronx is subjected to a lot of environmental injustices, environmental racism, if we're honest, just pollution, all kinds of injustices in the environmental sense, in the social sense, that really um, keep marginalized communities disenfranchised. And I think when I was in the process of deciding what to go to school for and what to study, I knew that I wanted to make an impact on the world around me. I wanted to have a say in what my community looked like, and I wanted to just have a voice myself and also empower others to have a voice in the world and the community around them. I think oftentimes um, as immigrants, as Spanish speakers, as just people who are not considered um, the majority population, we feel like that we just have to accept the conditions around us, and we often don't feel like we have a say in the experiences that we have. And I felt very strongly from very young that this shouldn't be the case. These are our communities, and we should have every right to say what we want here, what we don't, what we like to see, and how we can envision a future for our communities moving forward. So, as I mentioned, I have 15 years of experience working in the public sector. A lot of the work that I've done has been rooted in supporting organizations that advance environmental missions, um, sustainable efforts, just really, really focusing on how to bring other voices into the world of environmental education, and just bridging that gap, which I think when you look at it from a zoomed out lens, Hispanic communities are not often represented in these spaces, especially in the professional world. So in my 15 years of experience, I've done all kinds of things, but it ultimately led me to a career with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which I have now as a communication specialist, where I do many things. I interview my colleagues and share their stories. I engage with the public and inform them of the mission of our organization. I write stories to share that mission beyond our communities. I help craft social media posts to reach national and international audiences. And that's the work I continue to do as a communications specialist. And in my time with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, I found that it really boils down to just a few simple things. And these are the things that guide me in the work that I do. And I hope that it's helpful for you as you walk away from this presentation later today. So I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions or if there's anything we can help translate before I continue on here. Hopefully you all are following okay and this isn't too much of a challenge for you. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to say
Yeah,
that you were doing a great job in Spanish. So, no te preocupes.
thank you.
Thank you for trying.
I was trying really hard and I'm sorry. I just my brain just thinks in English and it I appreciate your grace, but thank
I
you for the
understand.
compliment. Okay, so continuing on, I spoke about this a little bit previously, but touching on what my professional goals are and what has guided me throughout my life, my career, and even my personal journeys. It's really been to address unjust social environmental conditions, something I've been exposed to as a very young child, growing up in the Bronx, and something that I became more aware of as I got older, as I traveled to different neighborhoods, as I went to school in Manhattan and just saw um, the great disparities across different communities, different neighborhoods, and how different groups of people were treated and the conditions they were subjected to. Ultimately, I do in my work try to promote economic revitalization and just really supporting communities that have been systemically excluded. Again, this is my story and where I come from. Um, that piece that really drives me to promote economic revitalization. And I think that is really rooted in my graduate experience in landscape architecture, finding ways to empower communities through the space around them, through the spaces we can create, through the physical and natural and even built environment, and ultimately empower the voices of others. In my work now, I don't necessarily get to have as great of an impact on the physical world around me, but I every day have an opportunity to empower the voice of someone else, to uplift someone else, and to really give them an opportunity to share their story, to listen to what their needs are, and figure out how we can collaborate together to um, just build a better world, build a greater future, and continue the great work. So why does this really matter? Why does community engagement, why does listening, why does listening to other people's and um, sharing experiences through storytelling, why is that important? To me, I can say it's important because everyone has a story worth listening to. You just spent the last 10 minutes listening to me and my story and what brings me to where I am today. And I hope through that exchange, you were able to find a connection to me, why we're actually not so different, why we are actually um, people who can benefit a lot from working together, from listening to each other, from finding ways to collaborate, and just from just exchanging in values and histories. And even if there are differences, you'll be surprised how much more people will lean towards the commonalities rather than the differences. In today's world, there's all kinds of differences that will drive us apart. So especially as modern communities really feel disconnected from the world around them, this is why storytelling is important. This is why building connections is important. And this is why it's more important than ever that we find that opportunity to build trust, to find that empathy within ourselves, to listen intently, and to strive towards inclusion. Um, I'm sure you all are very well aware of just the world we're living in these days, and we can never have a shortage of just building trust, leading with empathy, and finding ways to bring others to the table when we are constantly seeing um, how how others are being left out and not being brought into the conversation. So that's why this work is important. And on this picture on the right, it's a few of my very amazing coworkers who have built from the ground up a partnership with an organization based in the Bay Area in California called Latino Outdoors. Safe by Nature is also represented in this picture here, but Latino Outdoors is a national organization actually that just does the great work of bringing Latinos into the outdoors, finding opportunities for people to engage, again, in these spaces where we traditionally are not represented. And in this photo, my colleagues and these amazing partner organizations they're at a tabling event actually at one of our amazing national wildlife refuges where they sit there. They have amazing information at a table and they are welcoming to everyone who comes by and are listening to their stories. We share the great work, and that's an opportunity right there to have an exchange, to listen intently, to really understand why people are interested in coming to us and how we can offer experiences for them that will keep them coming back. And, maybe the next time they come to a national wildlife refuge, they will remember that ranger in the hat and that person who took the time to listen to them and to speak with them when they were at that event a few months ago. And now they have a positive perception and a positive experience and feel welcomed to come to our public spaces, whereas they wouldn't have that experience before. Okay, so I'm going to break down the strategies of what I've been alluding to here down a little bit. And firstly, I want to speak to the power of relating in the context of communities. And this can really be as simple as it sounds. We all have the power to relate to one another, to our communities. And this is just sharing your experience, sharing your story, sharing your values, and not shying away from them, not being embarrassed or ashamed of where you come from, like speak proudly to where you're from, what your experiences are, what your truths are, because that will be what connects you to other people. Um, as you heard me say earlier in my introduction and my backstory, all of this is a part of who I am and what I'm bringing and how we have opportunities to connect. So I ask of you all to do the same. Proudly share where you're from, why you're here, what you're passionate about, and what it is that you're hoping to strive for in the future. And that's not just in a work setting, that's in a personal setting. That's in all parts of life. That's in an interview. That's when you're meeting a stranger for the first time. because those human connections are really what will drive community building in all senses of the word. And also the power of active listening. And this is really important because you can't really exchange in a dialogue if you're the one doing all the talking. And I know that's a little ironic because I'm giving this presentation and not really giving you all the chance to speak. But I hope in the Q&A later, I do get to hear from some of you all and your experiences and your questions and practice some of that active listening myself. It's something that it's never ending, it's always evolving, but you do want to be sure that you're listening more than you're speaking. And when you're working with marginalized communities and communities that have been systemically excluded, they can be used to not having a say, not being listened to, not being heard. So it's even more important when you're working with these groups or just meeting someone who identifies as a member of this group to listen, to be very mindful of your body language, lead with curiosity, validate their experience, and not create a defensive dynamic. This is so critical for building trust and upholding psychological safety. The last thing you want to do is make someone feel like that person from that organization made me feel unsafe, and now I never want to work with that organization ever again. You want to build trust, and that takes time. But you'd be surprised how much trust you can build in the span of one short conversation. And this active listening, this will really help you identify the needs for that person in that community group, their perspectives, what points of commonality you have. And although that one person is not representative of the whole group, it will give you a sense of maybe just what that person is looking for. And maybe they could even share with you what their family members are looking for and what their community really enjoys doing. And it's your responsibility to go out and seek more information, to speak with more people and not just make assumptions based on that one interaction. But ultimately, yes, you do want to avoid assumptions and you do want to just reinforce that respect and ensure that it goes both ways. So, in a way, I kind of do just want to bring it back to how to combine your ability, uh, the use of storytelling to active listening. And I just want to enforce again, this is a two-way street. Uh, the story is only as powerful as the listener. So as amazing as a story as you might have, whether this be through the form of a social media story, a blog post you write, uh, photos you share on the internet, a conversation you have, all of these are forms of storytelling. As amazing as these stories might be, if you're not meeting your audience where they are and you're not creating a space where they actually want to listen to your story, then that story will actually fall flat and your engagement, you will not see the engagement that you hope to see. And that doesn't mean that your story is good. It may just be a fact of you need to work on how you're engaging and how you're sharing the story and where are you sharing this story? All of these things are very important. And again, it's a two-way street. You need that person to engage with you as much as you want to engage with them. So ensuring that that's a reciprocal relationship. And many ways of doing this, again, are just thinking about every person on an individual basis and the story that they bring. As much as we want to share our stories personally, again, every person has a story worth sharing. And as a communicator, And I like to think that we're all communicators, no matter what you do. You have the power to make people feel like their story matters. And that's something I don't take very lightly. It's something that has brought me a lot of great joy in the work that I do. Um, because just that power of active listening, that power of that one conversation, that curiosity in that moment where you ask them, like, what was your first experience coming out to a national wildlife refuge? Or do you remember the first time you and your family went camping? Or why are you interested in being in the outdoors? What do you remember when you first visited a natural, do you remember your first experience in a natural environment? These kind of questions that you can really use to build conversation and build connections and just foster that safe space where people feel comfortable coming to you and sharing more and more. And obviously, again, that's reciprocal. You will probably have to share some of your experiences before they feel comfortable opening up. But you'll find, back to the idea of building connections in communities, when you do this often enough and you lead with that interest and that curiosity, and you're working with community organizations, for instance, or you're working with a group of interns who are doing a specific work for the summer. If it's a continued effort, they will start coming to you with ideas that you can use to improve the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So it's, again, just really important to create that space, offer an opportunity for people to share their stories, because they often, more than likely, have not had the opportunity to share this experience. And again, practicing active listening is something I cannot underscore enough. It's just so important to listen actively every day, all the time, in every conversation, because that space that you create for someone to share their journey and their path is really a tool to empower others to feel connected to you, to feel connected to the mission of your agency, and to just feel like they have been heard and like their experience matters and that their connection to you was worthwhile. So wrapping up here, I do just want to say thank you very much. Thank you for just giving me grace and giving this presentation and listening to my story as I really shared with you why I am really passionate about the work that I do. And some of these pictures, you'll see examples of how storytelling, how building connections with communities will really just shape relationships, and really change the trajectory for how we engage with communities in our work. Speaking in my personal capacity, but as an employee of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, our agency has not always done the best job of engaging underrepresented communities. And for a state like California that has just such a high population of Hispanics, um, the the visitation that we see on our public lands is not reflective of the makeup of this state and the demographics of this country as a whole. So the photos that you see are just examples of listening to the community, listening to what people want to see, and finding ways to ensure that they're a part of the conversation so that they continue to feel represented and validated and heard and feel like they want to come to our public lands, whether that's bringing a mariachi to a national wildlife refuge so we can make the local Mexican community feel at home, feel welcomed, feel seen, whether that's hosting a Latino Conservation Week event, because we know that our communities want to feel represented and want to feel validated, or whether that's just hosting a table and having Spanish speakers like myself and my colleague Yvette just there to offer translation, to be a welcoming person to say, hey, this is me, this is my journey. Are you interested in working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service? Let me tell you about how I got there and why are you interested in it? Let's talk more about that. Just the small ways, of using communications, using storytelling to bridge those gaps and really make an impact on current generations and future generations in the work that we do. So I will be stopping there and opening it up for questions. But again, do want to thank you all for listening, and I hope you found this presentation helpful. So I'm going to stop sharing here so I can see you all again on the Zoom.